Hi everyone, Ian Aldridge from Progressive Legal today, talking about shareholder agreements and why they're so important to have. Like a partnership agreement, a shareholder agreement is an agreement between the shareholders of a company. A lot of people will leave shareholder agreements until it's too late, or just not even do them at all. And then if something happens between the shareholder directors of the business and they get into a fight, then there's the only way to resolve that is either by consent between the parties, or they have to go to Supreme Court. And that's the only avenue that they can go to if they want to resolve the business. Otherwise it ends up in a stalemate or very, very expensive legal proceedings in the Supreme Court, which is the court that has the jurisdiction to deal with the Corporations Act in these types of disputes. So when you start thinking of Supreme Court, it's extremely expensive to go to the Supreme Court. A lot of times barristers will say, unless it's about $1 million, don't even bother. So, it's best to have a shareholders agreement in place right from the start, or as soon as possible after you've set up the company, to make sure that there's a meeting of the minds between the two or more owners of a business, and make sure that you deal with all the what-if scenarios. Like a marriage, having this conversation before getting married, before entering into a business, and making sure that you're really on the same page. It's so common that we find business owners coming saying, "Oh, well, I never thought that they would think that this would be the case. That just doesn't seem natural to me," or the other person's the same way. So going through this process and making sure well, what if I want to sell the business or sell my shares? Does the other person get the first right to do that, to purchase those shares at fair market value? There's a whole bunch of things that you can put in the shareholders agreement to make sure that all the what-if scenarios are dealt with right from the get-go, so that if something happens down the line, if one of the shareholders happens to become incapacitated, what happens then in that situation? And dealing with these things in advance. We find that also, just like every contract, if you've got the contract in place right from the start, the chances of a dispute arising over stuff that hasn't been dealt with, hasn't been agreed to, reduces significantly. So to give your business the best chance of success, if you're in business with others, you've got to have a shareholders agreement. It's just one of those mistakes you might make once, but you'll never make it again. There's a lot of times when I have businesses, people coming to me saying, we need a shareholders agreement because I didn't have a shareholders agreement before, and I regretted it for the rest of my life. So I'm not making that mistake again. Don't let that be you. Make sure you've got the shareholders agreement in place right from the get-go. It's probably one of the most important documents that a company can have, to make sure that at least the owners of the business are all on the same page and know what will happen if this happens, or in different scenarios down the track. Once you've gone through that process, you'll realize how valuable they are. We provide fixed fees for these types of documents, and we'll go through everything, all the scenarios with you, provide you with the advice, and make sure that everyone's on the same page. You'll get a lot of benefit out of it. Thanks.